The Model 3000 should arrive securely packaged in a crate. Before it can be operated, the stretch wrapper will require some minor assembly. Cut the bands that secure the crate. Remove the crate's panels and set aside. Loosen the ratchet straps securing the machine in place and remove. Using a forklift, lift the machine from the fork pockets at the front or back of the machine. Standing up, the tower will require another person or object to support the weight at the top of the tower. Remove the 4 screws that secure the shipping bracket to the tower. Gently raise the tower into place. Be aware that the tabs on the bottom of the tower nest into their mounting location on the machine. Secure the tower in place with the socket head screws previously removed to detach the shipping bracket. Slide the pallet guide wheel onto the receiving bracket, which is located on the steering assembly. Turn the steering assembly slightly to gain access to the 3 mounting holes for the guide wheel. Install the provided hardware. Assembly is now complete and the machine is ready for operation.
Chris here at the Handle It Warehouse. You just received your Handle It mobile wrapper. At this point, you got it out of the box, you tipped the mast up and secured it. You also put on the guide wheel. Now we have a few more things to show you, so let's go over and check it out. As you walk around the machine, you see the guide wheel, which you put on earlier. Then I want to point out right here, this is the charging port. So what you would do is you would take this, plug it into the charging port, and the other end you would plug into a 110 outlet. We have another video later on, we can show you more about that. But for now, let's walk over to the carriage and we'll show you how to load the film. Now we're over by the carriage. We want to open this door, let's just pull this down. As you can see, this unit does come standard with a 250% power pre-stretch carriage. We're going to grab this roll of film and put it on the spindle. So it just goes on like this. Make sure it goes down all the way. Pull through like this. Close the door. And then we want to go around these 2 right here. Now right now, if I pull on it, it's not going to pull because the unit is not on. I'm going to go over here and show you how to turn the unit on, and then we'll be able to actually pull through with the film. Now in order to turn the unit on, you just turn this power knob and hold it till it clicks like that. Once it clicks, you can let go. And you're going to see a black screen like this probably for about 10 seconds. It takes a little while to boot up whenever you're turning it on. Now once it's booted up, it's going to ask for a reset. In order to do that, you can see here, it says request reset. So hold the black button in for a couple seconds, and now it'll say machine in manual mode. Once it says that, you're good to go. Now that we have the machine on and we did the reset, when I pull on this, you can hear the film feeds through. I'm pointing this out because it's very important that you have it around this roller because this engages, pressure on this engages the pre-stretch carriage. If I went like this, let's say I skipped that and went around here and pulled, it's not going to go because that's not going to engage at all. So very important that you have it threaded this way, around this roller and then around the second one. That way you can pull through because the unit's going to go that way, so it's going to pull the film this way. Now that we have the film loaded, I want to give you a general overview of the controls. So looking at the controls right here, up here you have the touchscreen display. There's a lot you can do in here. We'll get into more detail on that in a little while. But below that, I want to point out a few things. Very simple to turn it on. Turn this power to the right, hold it for a couple seconds, you'll hear it click, and then you let go, and then it's going to boot up. It'll probably take 10 to 15 seconds to turn on at that point. Over here, you have the start button. So this white button, if you want to start it so you can wrap a pallet, just push it in. If for some reason you paused it with this button to start it again, just hit start again. This button over here is the mostly used as a reset button. So if it asks for a reset, hold it in for a couple seconds. It's also used as a stop or a pause button. So if you want to stop in the middle of a cycle, you can do that as well. Below that, you have the emergency stop. So if you want to stop suddenly, just push this in, it'll shut down the unit. Remember to disengage it, to twist it to the left and pull out, and then you'll have to reset again. So we just went through the general controls and I made mention of the touch screen. Let's dig further into that touch screen and I'll show you how you can change things inside of there. So looking at the touch screen, in a general overview, we have the power button up here. So if you push this, it'll shut the unit off. Here we have the battery indicator. As you can see, we have 81% battery. From there, we have machine status. Right now it says machine in manual mode. That means it's ready to be used. If you're actually using it, it would say automatic. And if it said alarm, it would have a certain alarm or basically indicating that there's an issue. From there, it says actual program. Right now we're in saved wrap pallet number 1. So it's indicating that. And in that program, we're in the up-down mode. That's what the type of cycle is. The other options would be up only and down only. Then from there, you have the menu, cycle overview, and programs. We're going to dig further into these 3 in a second. So we just went over the main menu of the touchscreen display. Now I want to go into the program section. Here we're going to show you how you can view what's saved in that wrap pallet and also the changes you want to make and how you can make those so it can be specific to the pallet that you're wrapping. So just a reminder, you can see right here we're in program number 1. So if I go into programs, I'm going to go to general first. Now when I do this, because I just turned it on, it's going to ask for a password. It's only going to do that when you just turn it on. So I'm going to click that, go to number, hit the password 919, hit enter, then hit OK. Now if I go to general, it's not going to ask for that password. So go to general. So you can see we're in pallet number 1 still. If I wanted to change that out, if I click that and I put 2 here and I hit enter, then it would go to pallet number 2. I'm just going to keep it at number 1 though. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this, back again. And go to 1, enter. All right, so here they're talking about wraps, top and bottom wraps. So right now, the bottom wraps is going to be 2, so I'm going to keep it at that. Top wraps is 2. Top wraps after top sheet dispense, that's not in that mode, so it really doesn't matter right now. Then final bottom wraps is set to 1. Just for sake of making a change to show you how to do it, I'm going to go to the top wraps. I'm going to change it to 1 and hit enter. And if I want to make these changes, I want to hit save, then upload. Now if I go back, now we're going to look at the tension. So I go to film tension. Right now it's showing, this has variable tension, which is a nice feature because if you have variable tension, you could start lighter on the bottom and then tighten up, towards you get the top or on the way back down. So if you, let's say you have sharp edges or something like that, if you wanted a certain tension, you could start with lower, and then once that's covered up on the way back down, you can tighten it up more. Right now, I'm just gonna keep it at, I have it at 25 all the way through. Let's see, we'll do top tension, we'll change that to 35. And hit enter. So you can see the different areas where you can change that. Now I'm gonna save, upload, go back. Next, I'm gonna go to photo cell, which that's the photo eye delay. So if I go there, right now it's at 4 seconds. What that means is when the photo eye detects that it doesn't see the pallet anymore, normally it would go back down. But we're saying, hey, go up for another 4 seconds. And by doing that, you're gonna get a better overwrap on the pallet. If I didn't want as much overwrap, I'd set it to lower, like 2 or 3 seconds. If I wanted more overwrap, a higher number of seconds. So I'm gonna keep that as is. Right now, the photo eye is on. If for some reason I said, hey, I don't want the photo eye to be on, then I would have to put a pallet height in here. So I would say, hey, photo eye, I don't want you to detect the height of the pallet. I want to tell you exactly what height I want it at. So that's what you would do here, but typically you're going to keep the photo eye on. Carriage position after top sheet dispense, that's not going to apply here at all, so we're going to skip over that. So I'm not going to save anything because I didn't make changes, so I'm going to go back. Then I'm going to go to speed. So this is how fast the unit's going to be moving. There's 2 types of speeds. The traction speed is how fast the mobile wrapper actually goes around the pallet. So right now I have it at a high speed, so at 100% at high speed. And then as it slows down, I have it at 80% of the speed. The other speed is going to be the carriage upward and downward speed. So if I have a tall pallet, I probably want to lower this carriage speed down to, like, let's say 50%. Because that way, as I'm going around the pallet, it's going to catch more of the middle of it. But for now, the pallet I'm going to wrap is about 48 inches high, so it's not that high. So I'm going to keep it at 80 and I'll keep it at 75. But if I want to make the changes, I could just click on it and make it here. We'll go back. Then we go into others. So others is pretty important because there's two things you can do here. One, you can do a reinforcement wrap. So let's say middle of the pallet, I decided I really want to get more film applied there. I could say, hey, and I have to know where it's at, and I'll go further detail on this in another video. But I would, let's say at 55 centimeters, I would put that in here, and I would say the number of turns I want to do there. So I could do 2, 3, 4 wraps, for example. This last one, pallet perimeter, is it's very important. So when we're talking about the number of turns that we're doing around the pallet, the way that we know this machine knows how many times it went around the pallet is based on the perimeter. So that's where you input the perimeter here. So on this particular pallet I'm going to do, I know it's 4 foot by 8 foot, which equates to 732 centimeters for a perimeter. We have a cheat sheet for that comes with the machine. I'll show you that in a second. Probably good to have handy, especially when you're doing your initial programming. Then from there, the type of cycle is up then down. So that means it's gonna go up and wrap it and then come back down. The other options are gonna be only up and only downwards. So we'll keep it as is. So didn't make any changes at all, so I'm not gonna save it at all, but if I were, I'd hit, just for due sake, save and upload just as a reminder. We'll go back. Out of this palette, that's pretty much the stuff that I want to make changes to. In another video, I'm going to show you guys how we can actually wrap that palette. So earlier I discussed how important the pallet perimeter is when you're setting your values in your saved pallets. And I did make mention of a cheat sheet that we give you. So this sheet comes with your unit. So for example, the pallet that we're talking about earlier, I said was 4 foot wide by 8 foot long. So you got the 48 inch wide, 96 long. Meat down here, you have 732 centimeters. So this is a nice handy sheet you want to keep close by. So we gave an overview of the controls and we showed you how to make changes to a pallet wrap cycle. Now you're pretty much ready to go, but I do want to talk about one more step before we do that. The biggest advantage of the mobile wrapper is that you can bring it to the pallet to wrap it. So in order to do that, just pull this arm down and you push this button to go this way and this button to go the other way. Now that we have the guide wheel alongside the pallet, we want to bring it around manually just to make sure, at least on the first part here, that it's not going to get stuck inside that pallet. So as you can see, we're fine here. But if it was lower and it got stuck in there, it wouldn't go around. I can show you how to adjust that here in a second. So if you want to adjust this wheel up and down, you just loosen up here, these sections here and here with the 4mm hex key, and then this can adjust up and down. So we gave you a good overview of the controls and how to make changes to a pallet configuration, and we showed you how to line up the guide wheel. All we got to do now is attach the film and we can start an automatic cycle. Let's show you how to do that. Film is attached. Now all we have to do is put the arm in the up position, and then we hit start and it'll do the automatic cycle. We showed you how to make changes to the automatic mode. Now I want to show you how to make changes to the parameters in manual mode. So in manual mode, if you go to menu, go to manual commands, this is going to be how you raise the carriage up and down manually. So I want to turn the carriage on, put it to up, and to engage it, I hold in the start button, the carriage will be going up. And if I want to go back down, put down, and hold it to make it go down. Then if I go back and I go to machine data and then go to manual mode data, this is going to talk about the speed in manual mode. So the traction speed is how fast this moves around the warehouse when you're not wrapping. So if you're going a long ways around the warehouse and you want to get there faster, you want to increase the speed. We're at 85 right now. Carriage speed in manual mode is at 100%. And then if you happen to be taking this thing around the pallet manually to wrap it, which you really shouldn't ever, you could change the film tension to match whatever automatic mode that you had saved earlier. If you make any changes, make sure, again, hit save and upload. So we made changes to automatic mode and showed you how to do that. And we also showed you how to make changes in manual mode. Now what I want to do is show you how to use reinforcement height wraps within automatic mode. So let's go check that out. All right, so in order to figure out my reinforcement height, the first thing I want to do is go to menu, go to manual commands, turn the carriage on and upwards, and I'm going to raise it up to the point of the pallet where I want to have those reinforcement wraps. So notice right here it's climbing up. So I got to 30. That's where I want it at. So I got to remember I want it at 30 centimeters. Now I'm just going to put it back down to its home position. Then I'm going to go back to home. Then I'll go to programs, others, and reinforcement height. So I'm going to enter in 30. Enter. I'm going to do 2 turns there. 2, enter, save, upload, and now I'm good to go. So I'll show you how we wrap that. Now that we have the film attached, we can start it up. All right, now it's the carriage going down. Notice right now, it's stopping and it's doing the reinforcement wraps at that 30 centimeters right now. So it's going to do 2 of those. So one common mistake people make when they first get this unit is they bring it to the pallet and they go to hit start and they get an alarm. Reason being is they forgot to put this back up. If this is in the down position, it will not allow you to use the machine. It's all about safety because when it's up, the safety bumper is exposed. Hitting this is what stops the machine if you happen to be in its path. But if this were down, you wouldn't be able to hit the bumper. So if I go to hit start, right away, I'm gonna get arm out of position alarm. So it's just telling me that. So what I'm gonna do is put this back up, clear that alarm by holding this in for a couple seconds, this black button. It says machine in manual mode. That means I'm good to go and I can operate it. So if you need to stop this unit suddenly, just hit the E-stop button and it'll shut it down. One thing to keep in mind, and a lot of people forget about this, they go to turn it back on and then we get a call and say it doesn't turn on. Sometimes it's just because someone bumped this and you didn't know. So make sure you twist it and pull it out, and now you can turn the unit on.